All right, here we go. So, Jay, take over.
Everyone, welcome to Comic Frontline. We're here with the creator of Starfire, Harley Quinn, Power Girl, so many other books, Jimmy Palmiotti. And you want to introduce yourself a little bit, Jimmy?
Sure. It's Palmiotti. It's like you're looking at an Italian menu. Veal cutlet Palmiotti, like that. You can work that in there. I didn't create those characters, but I'm definitely Amanda and I are definitely creating more stories with them. But yeah, how you guys doing?
Doing well. We are doing great. So this is the opportunity for you guys in the comments below. If you want to ask Jimmy any questions, we will try to get your questions. And this is like a pre-type party for Starfire because it's coming out tomorrow. We're all very excited about it. So Jay, you want to start up with some questions, and also we'll wait for some questions in the comments also.
Yeah. All right, I'm a big Starfire fan from her debut back in the '80s with the new Teen Titans. And over the years, we have seen many sides of her, from the warrior princess to the naive, innocent one to the sex pot. Which Coriander will we be seeing in your Starfire?
I guess a little amalgam of all of them, because when we were offered the book, we Amanda and I both remember the character from from way back when, with George Perez and who was the writer? Was it Len Wein, or I'm blanking for
Mark Wolfman.
Oh, Mark Wolfman, right. I always get those guys. They're both so talented. So we remembered from them, and we got the gig, and we started reading the latest adventures in the New 52, and then we started looking at what people were saying online a little bit, what they were looking for in a character. And Amanda and I sat down and we just said, okay, we we love the idea of the alien living among us kind of idea, but we didn't want to go and do a straightforward superhero book, so we pitched an idea where Corey would pretty much be trying to start her new life over again, and we thought about, well, where do we put her? What's a supporting cast? And we kind of did what we did with Harley, which was take the character, bring the character to a new place, introduce a new supporting cast, and then get what most people like about the character and create a bit of an amalgam composition of the character. So something for everybody, and yet at the end of the day, it's always about what Amanda and I want to do. So it is always about what we want to write, and what we like about the character. And I think a lot of it was, for us, it was like that she's smart as hell, she's sexy, but she's also innocent, and she's also kind of like a visitor to the planet. And we came up with the idea of, we pitched it with her, the idea of her moving to Key West trying to have a normal life. And of course, that never lasts too long, but the initial dropping the character in a new setting was what we were going for.
Very cool. So, go on, Jay. I think Jay's a little bit delayed.
No. Yeah, probably. I just want to know, Kat, do you have a question for Jay?
Yeah, because you're also talking about this is very much your own story, and of course, a lot of times it is, but, DCU, it's this new brand, Divergence. How did this, affect your writing for this new series, or did it affect it at all?
It might be the new DCU for the rest of the people working on the other books, but for us, at least with the titles I've always written and co-written, I've always kind of kept them separate from a lot of the stuff that's going on in the other books, because I just feel like the idea of so much continuity alienates new readers, and I've always felt that when Justin Gray and I and Amanda did Power Girl, 4 or 5 years ago, we kind of did the same thing. We kind of ignored a little bit of what was going on in the other books and decided to take the character and start her out fresh. And we did that with Harley as well. I mean, they gave us Harley Quinn, and we both, we sat there and said, I can't do a book where she's going to be the Joker's girlfriend every issue. It's just boring. And so we kind of moved the character into its own world and own place. And even though it interacts with other characters, we felt that it was probably a smarter move to, I guess they call it Batgirling, except we were doing it in Power Girl for years ago, so I want to call it Power Girling. So we kind of Power Girled Harley, and with Starfire, we felt that we should do the same, and we didn't know that Starfire was going to be part of this bigger launch. We just, all we knew is we were doing Starfire, and it was coming out in June, and we didn't know it was going to be like a part of the new DC and all that kind of stuff. We're happy to be a part of it, but it's business as usual for us. So, so it wasn't planned on our part, but obviously the guys at DC knew exactly what they were doing, and I guess we'll find out in the next 2 or 3 weeks if it's going to work or not.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of books have come out already. I think Omega Man and Bizarro and what else did I read last week? Batmite, right? And
yeah,
I find that humor is a very hard. Humor is a very hard thing to write, except it has never been for me. Because I don't feel I'm writing a funny book. I feel like I'm writing a book with humor in it. And I noticed some of the other books are humor books, and that would be hard for me to write.
Yeah, because there's a lot of pressure. It's like, oh, this has to be funny, but now it's just like, hey, there's some humor here.
Yeah, I'm definitely of the school of there's humor in situations, and that's the way I write it. I think Tarantino does it great in his movies. His movies are funny, but sometimes the humor is happening in the most awkward or tense situation, and that's what we've always kind of kept with Harley. We never really did anything so it's a straight out joke. It's always a story with some crazy stuff in it, and I think with Starfire, in the same sense, it's a serious book, but there's humor and there's charm and there's a little bit of fun, and it's light at times, and then it's really heavy at other times. So I think by the time people get to the second, third, and fourth issue, they're going to see that there's a lot more to the book that maybe issue 1 would deliver, because issue 1 has to establish a lot of stuff right out of the gate,
Yeah.
Mike, do you have a question for Jimmy?
Yeah, Jimmy, I noticed that after reading the 8-page preview, that obviously you already mentioned it, that the story takes place it's going to be taking place, at least for right now, in Key West, and being that I live in Florida and I lived in Florida pretty much my entire life, I couldn't be more excited because there's not that many superheroes that live in Florida. And what made you guys decide on bringing the story to Florida?
Well, it's exactly what you said. It's when you do a DC comic, it's usually set in Metropolis or Gotham or whatever. They have the cities, right? And we felt with the character, we wanted someplace where she could be a little bit of a hedonist, and you know what I mean about Key West. You can kind of pull off a little bit of hedonistic attitude,
right?
And at the same time, a place in Orange Girl wouldn't really stand out so much. And I got to be honest, we were thinking about Key West, and we also thought maybe New Orleans would be a good place to set it. But we went for Key West because books have been set in New Orleans already, like Hawkman and stuff like that. So we just felt like, okay, Key West doesn't, it's kind of it's an island, it's tropical, it's got unusual characters, and yet she kind of would fit in on some level,
Mm-hmm.
Even the color of her skin could be passed off as too much time in a tanning machine.
Yeah.
So we just thought that might be a fun place, and again, playing into the fact that she's a sexual being, she's she's like anybody else. She's a beautiful woman, and she's surrounded by a bunch of characters. We just thought an island would be a pretty good place, especially since our supporting cast are Coast Guard people and policemen. So we have we've kind of like created a supporting cast based on the island life a little bit, and we figure if any trips we take from now on to Key West, we can now deduct as a business expense. So that's very
good. That's a good idea. Yeah. The other part of that question was because you mentioned it, like how you mentioned New Orleans as part of the thing of a destination, and it was mentioned in the issue as well. So with all the destinations that were mentioned in the issue, were you guys actually thinking about that at one point?
Well, we tried to, in the 8-page preview that was in the back of, what was it in the back of, the question number 2, right? I
think so,
convergence. By the way, that was that was a terribly planned thing, I think, because a lot of people didn't understand that those were original stories.
Mm-hmm.
That,
Oh, I didn't know that.
right, they're not the first 8 pages of the comics.
Oh.
They're actually original 8-page stories. So when you open Starfire #1, we kind of it's kind of page 9, if that makes any sense. And
Okay.
we didn't understand. We didn't know that we knew they were going to put them in the back of the books, but we didn't know that they were going to do such a not a great job letting people know. Because I know I just did 3 cons in a row, and nobody knew that the first Starfire story was in the back of the convergence questions. So that wasn't very successful. The good thing is that they're free digitally on DC's site, so a lot of people got to read them there. But when we had the scenes where Corey is talking to all the other superheroes about where she should live, it gave us some ideas, but we also tried to fit the answers to the actual character. So what would the character say? That's why a certain character tells us she should go live on the moon, and so the answers fit there. But at the same time, Amanda and I pretty much were thinking either New Orleans or Key West, and we just went for Key West because the other thing with New Orleans is, other than Mardi Gras, it's a different kind of town than most people think. So
yeah,
we thought with Key West, it's pretty much a summer vacation all year round in that place.
I think it's a great destination.
Thanks. Yeah, it's a great place to go hang out. That's for sure.
And you have key lime pies. Like, you could definitely use the food aspect too.
Yes, there is a scene in issue 3 where she hits a supermarket and has a difficulty understanding the idea of biting into a watermelon. But we definitely use the terrain, and the first issue, she actually deals with the weather in Key West right away.
Oh, wow.
And, for a character that's super powerful, to understand what a hurricane is a whole different thing to understand. I think there's a line in issue 2 where she says, "Don't you have machines that can control the weather?" Like she had on her planet, and they're like, "No, can you make one?" And she's like, "No, we had them," that kind of thing.
It's awesome.
Corey Andor is really known for her high-profile relationships in her past. She's went out with Dick Grayson. More recently with Jason Todd. She had a little flirtation with there, and then of course Roy Harper. Will any of her past romances come into play in this story, or will you a clean cut and stick to the new focus?
Well, I think the worst thing you can do when starting a new book, especially one that we're supposed to be getting a new audience, is to start bringing back history into the book, because then you have to cover everything in their relationship from the beginning. It doesn't mean we won't do it later on when the book's established, but I think initially we need to make the book focus on Corey and pretty much learn about her. We have to kind of know. We have to kind of get to know this character real quick. So I won't say that we won't see any other characters. I'll just say that we won't see them for a while. And she already has a connection with a couple of different guys, actually. By the time we get into issue 3 and 4, she's not looking at things like relationships or anything like that. She's kind of trying to exist in this small island. And she kind of bonds with the sheriff in the book and her brother, who's a Coast Guard. But as far as relationships and stuff, those things are going to happen a little bit more naturally. We're not going to try to force her into anything right out of the gate. But I will say probably later on we'll revisit some of that. And we also, I think by the end of issue 3 and beginning of issue 4, we also bring in a character that Amanda and I have worked on in the past, and to be part of the supporting cast. And you'll understand why when you see it. It makes total sense. But as far as relationships, we want to establish who she is first, and I think it's important for, especially, like I said, especially readers and new readers, to kind of get a sense of who she is before we start throwing her into relationship stuff again. Yeah. I could be wrong. It could be the worst move we ever made, and everyone hates it. You know.
It sounds good, you know, taking a break from the usual and giving you a little. It's kind of her restarting her life, and you know, the best way to do that sometimes is to leave everything behind you for a little while.
It makes her her own character too, I feel, because like you know, you can't always be in a relationship, and Starfire, like Jay said, is so known for her relationship. So let's see a book where it's just her. I really like that idea.
You know, we had the same issue with Harley, right? That we were going to
make and you did a good job by separating that.
Right, all about the other thing is, you know, and you guys all understand this. There's a point in your life where you can kind of go somewhere else and be somebody else for a while. Yeah. And not have all your baggage come with you, you know. Whether it's, you know, some people do it by going for a week in Vegas with their friends. Some people do it by changing cities and changing jobs, or other younger people do it by they leave high school and go to a college where they don't have their friends from high school, so they get to reinvent themselves and start anew. And so we felt with Corey this might be a good idea to kind of handle it like that a little bit.
Cool. Kat.
So you were discussing a bit about the supporting characters before. Can you elaborate on what these characters are about? You know, what we're going to see with them and how they're going to interact with Starfire?
Sure. When she, you know, initially in the 8-pager, she meets the sheriff and she kind of walks in and says, you know, I want to live here. How do I make this happen? And the sheriff sees that she's a little bit of a fish out of water and tries to give her a hand, you know, because she hasn't had to worry about things like currency and I have to get food and where do I live, you know, and especially in the last couple of years in the New 52, that's never been an issue. She's always been with somebody or someplace, and so her supporting cast comes from the people she needs around her. Eventually, her bartender, the sheriff's brother is in the Coast Guard, who she helps out in the Coast Guard. And she gets involved with the characters in the town. So the brother and the sister are pretty much main characters. And in the first issue, we have she kind of moves into a trailer park in Key West, which Amanda and I have always called them hurricane toys.
Yeah.
Trailer parks. The hurricane just sweeps in and throws them around. And she moves in with a. She moves into a trailer that the lady tells her the guy has the flag. He painted the flag of his country on the outside. It's actually a big giant pot leaf, and it's a Jamaican flag, a fake Jamaican flag with a big pot leaf. But there's some funny stuff in it. So the supporting cast comes from the people she meets. She goes shopping. I know this is, you know, the two guys, you know, a couple of men listening going, well, I don't want to watch her shop. But she goes shopping, understandably, because she's in the superhero clothing. That's all she has. And she doesn't have any money, but she actually has a bag of rocks that happen to turn out to not be exactly rocks. And, you know, and she has to get a job. And it's... I want to say it's like superhero soap opera in a way, but I hate to even cheapen it like that, but it kind of is. So we just kind of get it. It's a story of, so the supporting cast comes from her situations pretty much, and you know, I'm watching what I'm saying because everything I say is giving away another thing. But you'll like the supporting cast. They're likable people. They mean her well, most of them, and then by issue 3 and 4, we have a couple come in that you'll totally understand why we're bringing them in based on the situation and creating a little happy family down there. But it's not gonna be your normal comic. I will say this: it's not your normal superhero fight book. It is not. It is not that. It's something completely different. And that's why Amanda and I are nervous as hell about if it's going to do well or not. You know?
From what I've read so far, it seems like a breath of fresh air and something I'm super excited to read. I remember I read the preview. I'm like, whoa, can't wait, and I'm super excited about it. It's going to be the first book I read tomorrow.
Well, thanks. Thank you.
Mike.
So based off of that eight-page preview that I read, what made you choose Superman to be that main person that she goes to? Is it because she's very relatable because he's an alien and she's an alien?
Yeah, I mean that's you nailed it right there. It's because of that, and also I think on some level it's out of respect. Like we look at all those other characters and they all have their motives, right? To Starfire, they want her close by, they want her far away, they want her in a place where they can kind of manipulate her a little bit. And we felt like Superman has nothing, no ties to her, and could tell her, give her a clean answer of where maybe she should go. Also, as you said, it's another alien and living on our planet kind of situation. And the idea that she, you know, in a world, if we lived in a world where Superman existed, he would be like the man, you know, the guy that would know everything. She wouldn't go to Batman, you know.
Yeah.
It wouldn't make any sense, but Superman makes total sense. There's something also about her and about Superman. They're actually like they're very like godlike characters in a weird way. I won't say godlike. Maybe that's the wrong word. Maybe more like perfect. They look physically. There's a physical quality to them that is sort of like what we would all like to be. We all like to be Superman. I'm sure some of the girls out there would love to be Starfire, and tall girl with the hair that's kind of whatever crazy, and Superman's just muscles and strong. So we just kind of thought it might make sense.
It's like the ultimate big brother.
Throw it out there. You don't know if it,
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's cool. I mean, I like the premise of the book overall, based off of what you're explaining, because I like that she's trying to find a new place. She's trying to go somewhere, trying to establish herself, and I think part of the journey of the book is her trying, once she gets there, is establishing herself, and I think that's interesting. That's great character development there. And that will take the book into great places going forward with it. If you have action and adventure, that comes later. I like to see the character development. I think that's what we all like here in this panel.
Yeah, the dilemma I always have, because I don't. It's not like I go to DC and I say I would like to work on this.
Mm-hmm.
That isn't how it goes.
Yeah.
Now it goes that way because they going okay, but for the most part they come to you and say, would you like to do this? I mean, the only time I've ever went to them and said I want to work on something was Jonah Hex. That was the thing that I pitched to them. So with Starfire, they came to us with Starfire, and basically it became a question of why would I want to read this book? So we have to write a book that Amanda and I want to read. And at the end of the day, people say, well, we write it for the audience, we write it, but you can't. You kind of have to write it for yourself. Like, why would I be interested? Why would I care? And why would I want to read this is what motivates you as a writer to do something. If you only thought about the audience, then you'll be second-guessing everything. Like, I'll read, tomorrow there'll be 20, 30 reviews of it. Some will hate it, some will love it. What you do as a writer, you kind of read in between it. You kind of read the guys that hate it and see why. You read the people that like it, you see why. You don't take it personal. I did this book, G.I. Zombie, that got canceled. It went 8 issues.
Mm-hmm.
And I read a review, and a guy said he called the book a war crime. Said it was the worst written book he's ever read. And I started laughing at that. I'm like saying, wow. Like, and I wrote back to him. I said, well, now Hitler has something to read in hell. I just like was okay. What am I gonna do? The guy hates the book, but I read in what he hates about it, and I realized, well, he and I don't like the same things.
Yeah.
And so of course he's gonna hate it, and it's totally legit. He can hate. It's okay. And again, perception, right? Because retailers order a certain amount. Then you guys a lot of people come into stores and they either buy it or they don't buy it, and then you kind of know where the book is. Eventually, issue 3 and 4 is always your tell, because that means the retailers who sold issue 1 are either going to back it or not by the sales on issue 4, by their orders. So, the retailers are very important, and then the fans coming in. For us with Harley, we never thought in a million years Harley was going to sell. We got to be honest. We just thought, all right, they gave us Harley and we're going to have some fun. And You know, nobody was more shocked than Amanda and I when those numbers came in. We're like, what the hell happened? What is this? You know?
Why would you not think that book would not sell, though?
Because Harley came out before and it got canceled. The series, they had a series before and it got canceled. And the other thing was we were taking Harley in completely, we were throwing out, yeah, we just kind of, we put her in roller skates, made her in a roller derby, threw her in Coney Island, you know, we kind of did our own thing. It had a million ways to die, you know. It was a million ways that book could have died.
Right.
You know, it's funny because it's 2 years ago. And 2 years ago there wasn't the Harley fever. You know, Hot Topic has a whole section of a store now, but when we were given Harley, it wasn't there. Yeah. It just wasn't there. She was in Suicide Squad and that was it, you know. So
I mean, I think when it comes to Harley, in reality, I think a lot of people saw her in Suicide Squad, and I think they weren't fond of the way she was in Suicide Squad. So I think with her getting her own book, I think it kind of opened a lot of people's eyes to the character and see what you guys would do with her. And I think that's why, you know, it kind of did it the way it did, and well, it's done.
Yeah, you know, look, I mean, we looked at it. We read all the Suicide Squad books. You know, DC sent us the 2 trades, and we said, well, we can't really write a character with a bomb in her neck that just murders people, you know? I said, there's got to be more to it, and we love the Bruce Timm Paul Dini Harley, but we couldn't do that either because that exists in the universe where there's Batman and the Joker. There's 3 characters. That's, you know, so we just figured with Harley, let's do something crazy. And I mean, even the Harley Zero was us being wise guys and getting 17 artists to just, you know, it was us trying something.
Phenomenal issue, by the way.
Yeah, that's such a fun book. So memorable. Really great book.
Oh, thanks. You know, and but it was an experiment. Like I said, everything we were doing could have went so south so quick. The good thing about my career is I have so many failures that it doesn't matter. somehow they keep hiring me for the next gig. I mean, I have a whole wall of canceled books and whatever, and you know, I guess you learn from it, or at least a part of me is I'm too stupid. I keep sticking to my guns and say, well, I'm going to do this one my way again, and you know, so for every Power Girl series that does really well, I have a Freedom Fighters book that got canceled, G.I. Zombie, The Ray. Oh God, I got a wall of them. But I think also failing at things also teaches you that, well, the hell with it, experiment and go crazy, because you know the worst you can do is fail again. Once you have that safety net I have a nice safety net of failure I can lean into. Then you can experiment and do some crazy stuff, and once in a while you get lucky. I just blame Amanda. All my luck is on Amanda. Yeah.
You touched on a couple of your other series. One of the questions from our viewers is Nick Lenz asks, what's it like to write all-star Western, Star-Spangled War stories featuring G.I. Zombie and Batwing? What was it like to write all 3 of those?
You mean all 3 series that got canceled? Well, let me tell you. Batwing was a challenge, you know, because
you turned Batwing around.
Yeah, Batwing was
You made it go from, like, it was like a 2-star, 2.5-star book for me before. When you took over, I was giving it like 4.5 stars.
Yeah, they were giving a pick of those.
It was really
I was like, Batwing. I'm like, I have to try this Batwing.
Yeah, we tried to write the character with a ton of respect, you know, and we made it about his family. And we didn't want to do a Batman book, like per se, you know, this is all about Batman, but you have to recognize that, yeah, he's wearing Batman technology. We did our best on that book. It lasted for a while, but again, the sales were terrible. You know, people didn't want the character, or at least enough people didn't want the character.
Yeah.
And then, you know, we look at All-Star Western. I can't really bitch about that because that was like the end of All-Star Western was like our 105th issue we've written. So even though it gets canceled, we were doing it for 6 years. So, you know, I just understand that a Western is always going to be a hard thing to sell. And I thank God for DC because they kind of stuck with us. They could have canceled that thing 100 times, and they just said, well, you know what, you do a good job. Just let's keep putting it out, and maybe somebody will like it. And then they made that crappy movie, which really hurt us because it actually hurt us because we used to have all our trade books in the bookstores, and when the movie came out and bombed, all of a sudden every bookstore returned the trades.
Damn.
When we used to sell them like crazy, because of the movie, they returned them all, and then DC decided not to put them in recirculation. So you cannot get Jonah Hex trades anymore. They just stopped printing them. So this was a case where a bad movie hurt us really bad. I mean, you know, look, it was a terrible movie.
I still haven't even seen it. That's how I've heard.
Oh, you should watch it. You should watch it. Just get drunk with your friends and watch it.
And then that's how you'll watch it.
I got to tell you, like, Brolin is fantastic in it. You know, it's not the cast. It's just the story is terrible, and it's not the character. It wasn't true to the character. If they spent another $300 and had us, you know, kind of go there and help them out, it would have made a big difference, I think, in that film, because they threw everything in the kitchen sink. It had you know, Jonah Hex was reaching into the ground and resurrecting dead people. It made no sense. It's, you know, it's sort of like making Batman see the future every other minute. It just didn't make any sense to the character. But it hurt the book pretty bad. And let's see, what was the other one? G.I. Zombie. G.I. Zombie, that was just a hard sell. People looked at it and said, they judged it right away, like, oh, it's just a zombie that's with a gun. And actually, if you read it, it was a completely different kind of series. It was probably a little too mature. It's going to make a great trade collection when it comes out this summer, and I'm very proud of it. But we kind of knew by issue 5 it was canceled, so they let us end the story. They let us have till 8 to tell the whole story. So it happens.
I think the first issue of G.I. Zombie that I read was the Future's End issue, and I thought it was really well done. I thought it was just it was just a different type of art style. It was very independent-like type of book, and it actually got me into reading a few of the issues. But same thing, when I heard it was canceled, I was like, well, why should I read it now? And then I couldn't get the first issue, and so that's good. Yeah, that's good that you mentioned that, because when it does come out, I'm interested in reading the whole story.
Yeah, the trade is a beginning, middle, and end. It's a full giant story, and you nailed it. You said it has an indie feel because it got indie numbers.
Mm-hmm.
It got numbers that were, if it was an Image book, they would consider it successful, but as a DC book, it was a flop. You know, it was just under 10,000 copies, and you know, the Image's big successes are rated around 8, 9, 10,000 copies, and that's not really huge. You know, it's a small piece of an audience, but you know, when they make the G.I. Zombie movie or TV series, then they'll go back and buy the trade, and I'll live happily ever after.
And hopefully people will enjoy the story, which I'm sure they will. And I think Jay is not here at the moment, so I guess we'll ask another question from the audience, which is, let's see if I can find one. So one is, let's see. This from Harry Bean. Any plans to tackle Doom Patrol or Metal Men? I love to see an ongoing spotlight, a different Earth or alternate existence.
Yeah, I like both those books, but probably not for me. You know, I guarantee on somewhere or some level they have them in the works somewhere. You know, I think I'd like to see the Metal Men and Harley Quinn, just because I can picture the stupid things she would do with them. But you know, the Doom Patrol, a little, you know, I have the Grant Morrison Doom Patrol in my head, so you know, when you say Doom Patrol, I think, well, Grant Morrison needs to write it. You know, I'm like, you know, like it's nobody wants me doing Doom Patrol, although that except for that person.
Maybe that person will make a petition somehow. You'll have to do Doom Patrol.
Yeah, I love what Grant did with it, and you know, I feel like that's the apocalyptic take on it. But I think maybe it's time for somebody new, but probably not me. I can't see them giving me Doom Patrol. You know, you give me a group book, eventually I'll destroy everybody. So I'm not a huge group book person. They're really tough to write a group. a group book. At least I think so, because you have to focus on everything and everyone. And I'm not I also don't like reading group books too much. So maybe, as you get older, you realize, when I was younger, I always used to say, I'll do anything. I'll do anything for $1, stand on a corner. But now I'm like, I get like, that's not for me, and that's okay. And the good part is, I'm making enough of a living that I can actually say no because something is not for me.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing you gain with maturity and being in a business is you realize that, you know what, it's smarter to say no to something that's not for you than to just take it on and ruin it. And I've done that a couple of times as well. So it's all right. Live and learn.
You mentioned about not really writing group things and more solo. One of the things you're known for are writing the women, and women who are seen as sex symbols in the comic industry, because you have Harley Quinn, you have Power Girl, you have Starfire. How does it feel to know that you're like kind of known for writing them, and how does your wife affect you writing them? Like, how does that affect your writing and handling of that
I've written
situation?
The first female I've written was Painkiller Jane. Always, and I grew up with it, and obviously very, very respectful to women. I never had that thing where they weren't equal. I never had that. Like, I grew up and they were always equal, and especially around my house. And and then I don't think I could have ever been with Amanda if I was that guy. Which because she's almighty and powerful, and she'll run down here and kick my ass if I say anything wrong. So I've always kind of written women as strong because I've only known strong women. My mom being the one, the main one in my life, and then that's all I've ever known. So it's funny because I've written, I go back to like Beautiful Killer and with Phil Noto, and Jane has always been my first one out of the gate, but I didn't realize it until someone brought it up last year that I write so many female characters, and I never have any of the female groups getting mad at me about it. And I said, because I always say, well, why would they? I don't really victimize any of the women, or if I do, it's usually for a story plot to get, of course, them to go back and kick their asses. But I only know strong women. They've always been a sign of strength for me and intelligence. And I think most guys understand this when I say this. Most women I know are smarter than guys. They tend to calculate a little better before they open their mouths, where men sort of just say what's on their mind and get in trouble. It's also the thing that women find fascinating about men is that these things, that they just tend to react. And so we're a lot different. The sexes are a lot different. But I've always kind of written the female characters as strong. I just don't know how to do it any other way. I wish I could say I look at it very hard and try to, and I don't. It's just the only way I know how to write them. So it's just something I've always done. Like I said, I'm glad you think that. I'm glad people like what I do, but I look at the character. I just look at them as characters. Male and female is, of course, what they are, to everyone else. But I look at them as personalities and characters and internal dialogue and feelings. And in the end, when you're a writer, pretty much every character has a piece of you to it. So Amanda gets it. She'll read something. She goes, "That's so you." And there she says, "I'm, Painkiller Jane is the female version of me." And she says in attitude and everything, because she's a kind of a tough guy on the front, but deep down, very, very caring person, and that's, I guess also part of my background growing up, being Italian, having a lot of brothers, and my mom being the only woman in the house, and boy, she ruled the place, So it has everything to do with what you grow up with, and I think when people are misogynistic, or they have, even look, when they handed us Power Girl, me and Justin Power Girl, we laughed because we said, women hate this character. They really did. Like, when we got it, they were like, And you know, when they handed us the character, I said, well, you know, we have to have Amanda draw the book, number one. That was our first thing. We told DC she has to draw it because only Amanda's going to nail what we want to do with Power Girl. And then you know, when we started writing it, we said, okay, you know, who is she? And that became a big issue for Justin and I. We kept saying, yeah, who is she really? Like, who, you know, forget the body, look past the body. Why? What is it about her? What makes her tick? Why is she the way she is? And we wrote it was a silly, crazy comic. I mean, the Power Girl miniseries we did with Amanda, it's ridiculous. I mean, we have whole stories with her cat, with a kid that's like 14 years old that stalks her and takes her to a comic shop. It's completely ridiculous. But at the same time, every one of these situations defined who she was. So people started to focus less on her body and more on her character. And that's why I think a lot of people like Power Girl now. It's that she says, this is how I look, deal with it. You know, this is who I am, and deal with it because here goes the rest of the story. And so that's the way we've always written it. Like I said, I don't know. Some group could probably pick me apart or pick the books apart if they really wanted to. You know, whatever. Thank you for the free press if you do. I don't know what to say. Yeah.
That's the best way to look at it.
I mean, you know, controversy. You know, I don't know. You know, there seems to be bigger things to get mad at in the world, but if they want to pick on one of my books, you know, that's their business. I can't, you know, that's fine. But I do like writing female characters, and yeah, I guess I'm writing a lot of them, and you know, look, I'm writing them with Amanda, so her sensibilities are right there as well. We talk everything out with the story. We talk to each other about how the characters react and how they fit in the world, and her point of view is fantastic. You know, she has a great sense of humor. That's why I married her. You know, obviously, why would she marry me? Anyway, she said something funny today. She said, you know, people must look at us and, you know, this is so Amanda, right? You know, say, you know, look at us both and say, you know, and this is her in a nutshell. I mean, it's in the nicest way, but she thinks I'm the catch. I think she's the catch, and that pretty much works. That works out pretty good.
It's awesome.
Yeah. Great way to think of it. On to you mentioned Amanda you collaborate with, and you also mentioned Justin Gray. How is it different from writing with him and writing with her, and having her go from your artist to a co-writer too, because she's co-writing Starfire with you?
Oh yeah, no, she's all over it. It's difficult. Did you guys lose me? I just saw the screen go.
No.
Okay. It's difficult. It's more difficult with Amanda because Amanda's thinking about the drawing as well. So there's a lot of things take longer. Where Justin and I pretty much just write it and then let the artist do everything. With Amanda, she's visualizing it and trying to compensate for the artist or what has to be done. So it's a little bit of a different process. It's definitely more visual with Amanda, but I also think both of them have their advantages and disadvantages, and it's kind of fun to work with both of them, you know, for different reasons. Amanda, I get books that, you know, a lot of humor, where Justin's strength are, Justin's a pretty awesome sci-fi writer, and he also likes history like I do. We're both big fans of history. So we try to work that into a lot of our stories. So they're both great to work with, but they definitely have a different pace. Amanda has a more analytical kind of trying to get into the head of everybody, where Justin is all about big giant set pieces and how we're going to take these little characters and put them in these big giant scope type situations. So I'm pretty lucky with having two people to work with that I think are brilliant, you know.
Cool. Kat, you have another question?
Yeah. We were talking about Jonah Hex a little while ago, the movie. So, you know, Harley Quinn is going to be in the Suicide Squad movie. So what are your thoughts on her being in that film? Does that affect your book? What's your thoughts on all that?
Well, you know, I think it'll help our book. I think having it out there. Look, the movie's a hit until it comes out, right? Until the movie's in theaters, it's exciting and all this crazy stuff, and we're going to see trailers soon, and people are going to talk about it. And every time they talk about Harley Quinn, I'm thinking it hits somebody's radar, like it's Daredevil with his little radar, and something walks into that radar. I think in a way, we're going to get people might be trying the book for the first time because they're anticipating, what she's going to be in the movie. Now I know it's based more on the Suicide Squad, but it's still Harley Quinn, right? So I think at the end of the day, we might get new readers. Hopefully we get new comic readers because we can always use them. But I've seen lately, more than the movie, and you might find this interesting and you might understand it or might disagree with me, but having a whole store in Hot Topic selling Harley clothing and T-shirts, and guys wearing Harley pants. We're at the con, the guys have Harley pants, and they have in the new Harley Quinn book we have Harvey Quinn, which is a guy that's dressed like Harley, and and so that is kind of like people are buying it and then they're going, well, who is this character? And they're investigating, and the retailers tell me people come in all the time, a lot of young girls too, looking for any Harley Quinn books, and the retailers say to me, excuse me, I just had dinner. A lot of retailers tell me they give them our Harley Quinn series before they give them Suicide Squad because they say, they're usually younger or they, it has more of the tone they would rather represent. But, eventually they'll find Suicide Squad and follow that as well. I think it's all good. Like I said, it's all good until the movie comes out, and then we'll see what happens. But I think the character has so many fans because of the video games, because of the clothing, because of for everything. I just think that we did 3 cons in a row. We did Denver, Dallas, and Niagara Falls, and Amanda and I never had lines that big, ever, in our career. And even when I did Marvel Nights with Joe and Kevin Smith, and we do a signing, nothing compared to what these shows have been lately. And it's all women, a lot of women. It's all young girls. It's a lot of couples, guys and girls both read the book, and man, that's like a good feeling because you know that the actual marketplace is expanding.
No, it's great to hear. I totally agree.
Yeah. So I think if Harley brings them in our silly book, they like it, then great. I just think it's gonna stay that way. It's up to us to keep the book, keep the book good for the next year or two. And it's the easiest book for Amanda and I to write in a way because we just start laughing when we write it, and it gets more and more ridiculous. And we come up with guys that the characters that are so ridiculous, and yet they're a threat, and yet the book is weird. It's a real. When a book is easy to write, that's when you're doing the right book. So I think that's where we are with Harley at this point.
That's awesome. Mike, do you have a question?
Yeah, just curious. With Starfire, going back to Starfire on the book, it is a new #1. What is this? How is this going to attract new readers that have never read Starfire or know nothing about Starfire? Actually, you see the cover before.
In the first 2 pages of the book, we retell Starfire's origin right away. Boom. 2 pages.
That's good. That's good.
Here's where she's from. Here's how she got here, and here's where we are right now. I don't think we needed to involve them with the whole sci-fi drama of everything about her, because all we need to know is this superhero wants to live in Key West. Here's the new characters, and we introduce it. We're very conscious that this will be somebody's first comic they're buying. And like I said, I wish the 8-pager was in the front of this, but it's online, so hopefully they'll track it down eventually, and they'll put it in the trade eventually. But we're very, very conscious of the fact that this might be somebody's first comic they're reading. So we wrote it that way. So there's nothing. They're not going to get lost. If they have more questions, that just means that we're doing the right job, and they'll come back to issue 2. But very, very, very conscious. I have neighbors that don't read comics. It's always good to give them a book we do because they read it and they either get it or they don't get it. And this book was an easy one for them to get.
Personally, I like when the writers put a little bit of a backstory or a little bit of a history, and we talk about this on our show all the time, of trying to catch you up of what's currently going on in the story, whether it's a new comic or a current comic, and I wish more comics did that on a more consistent basis so people can kind of remember what happens, or if you stayed away for a while. So I wish, that would happen more on a more consistent basis.
Yeah, I mean, we have busy lives, all of us, so it's hard to keep track of everything. I mean, it's not a big job to do. I mean, I could tell an origin in one page.
Yeah.
It's sort of like if somebody asks you a question, hey, what's that movie Jaws about? You can go, well, it's this northeastern town, and it's terrorized by a shark. So a scientist, a sheriff, and this old fisherman go out to get it. I mean, it's really,
Yeah.
You can nail it pretty quick.
Just to jar someone's memory to be like, okay, I remember what happened now.
Right. And, we have to acknowledge the people that have been reading Starfire for years at the same time. But it's equally important for a new generation. It's why they can keep making movies over and over for some unknown reason. Why they can do another Poltergeist and why they can do another, because there's always another generation. It's the first time. Although we don't know why they remake some of the movies. I don't want to see a remake of Big Trouble in Little China. I just like the original one, but maybe it'll be good. Who knows?
Thank God someone else said it, because I said the same thing.
Yeah.
They're just remaking everything, basically.
Yep, pretty much. Yeah. Yes, Jay.
We have a question from, I'm trying to read this person's name, Cabral02064. How does the new Power Girl Harley team up compare to your and Amanda's previous Power Girl series?
It's as if we never left. It's all about Vartox, the sexiest man in the universe, and Power Girl and Harley getting mixed up in his hijinks, and it's 6 issues of a sex planet and in the sexiest man in the universe, and it's completely ridiculous. It's got a little bit of a Star Wars feel to it. It's I think exactly what the readers want with Harley and Power Girl teaming up. Harley thinks she's a superhero, which is completely ridiculous, and Power Girl has amnesia, so doesn't know that Harley is not her sidekick, and it's an adventure they go on where they have to save Vartox, and eventually there's a wedding that takes place, and 3-eyed cats, and a phallic-looking planet, and it is so over the top. But it's fun because if you like the old series, then you'll understand. This is the Power Girl the way we used to write her, and it was kind of a joke in the comic when we did it for Harley. It was a 2-panel gag where they jump through a time ring and they come out through another ring and they go back in another ring, and so it's the whole 6 issues takes place between these 2 panels where they jump in one ring and come out another one. And when we pitched it to DC, I said, well, we have an idea for a miniseries if you guys want, and they were like, the 3 issues of Harley came out with Power Girl in it, and it did really well, and they said, okay, we'll take it, and we got them at a weak moment,
Well, I mean, how could they not? How could that book not sell? It was you and your wife back on Power Girl. That was an awesome series.
And the artwork is by Stefan Rue. It's stunning. I mean, it's stunning. Paul Mounts is coloring it. When you see the first issue, you're gonna have a holy shit moment because it really looks awesome.
Jimmy, when does that one come out?
I think it comes out in look at the count. I think it comes out the 24th. It's either the 17th or the 24th. I have a signing in Heroes Haven in Florida, in Tampa, so on the 20th. So maybe it comes out the 17th.
I think it is the 17th. I think I just recently saw it as the 17th.
Yeah, tomorrow is like, we have Harley coming out, Starfire, and then I have Big Con Job number 4. So it looks like I'm kind of taking over the rack for the day.
Which is a good feeling, definitely.
It happens all the time. Money. Well, it's like people go, oh, you must do 1,000 books. And I'm like, no, they just come out at the same day all the time. It happens all the time with me.
At least you don't have to keep track. It's all in one week, so you can just tally up what everyone's thinking. My
head is so far ahead on, like, I'm on Starfire 4. I'm on Harley 20, and then Con Job ends. That's the last issue. But and I'm on Power Girl Harley 4. Which
wow,
is,
that's wild.
My brain is like all the way there, and that they're coming out now is kind of like, oh, those things. Yeah, they need to come out, I guess.
Those old issues.
Yeah, those old books. I know how that ends. But but it's always exciting. It's always nice to like I said, we were at cons for 3 weeks in a row, and we were getting all these people's stories of the first time they read Harley, or they just bought the hardcovers, or they bought the hardcover at the airport, which always is shocking to me that there's books at airports and Harley's there. But I'm getting all these. Amanda and I are getting a lot of nice feedback that people are laughing at the stuff that we put in there, the jokes, or they get it, or they, the intent, the idea that. Because Amanda and I love animals, so there's always animals in our books. Starfire is no exception. There's a lot going on with the animals in our books for some reason, and that won't stop. I'm going all over the place here, so you guys.
Especially since Starfire is supposed to be like kind of feline-esque, so it's kind of weird to know that she's going to have animals in her book too. Just her race is supposed to be like a feline race.
Yeah, well, if you know about Key West, there's the Hemingway cat is a citizen of Key West. When Hemingway lived down there, he had these cats with 6 toes, and they're all over the island. So. There are cats, Hemingway cats in the book. We also, when we were going through Starfire's powers, one of her powers is that she can kiss somebody and learn their language. You guys know that, right?
I personally did not know that.
Yeah.
So it was a Teen Titans animated.
Oh, right. Yes,
right.
While I'm wearing the shirt.
Right, that's right. I see. So, so the idea that she can kiss something or someone and learn how to speak like them is very fascinating for us as the series goes down, goes in further. I don't want to give anything away, but it's ridiculous, and you'll love it, hopefully.
Sounds like a lot of fun for that. So we are getting towards the end of the interview. So Jay, I guess we're gonna maybe do one more question from each of us, and maybe one more audience question.
All right. I'll start off with the audience question. It's from Nick Lenz, and he says, will Starfire cross over with Harley at any point?
It's tempting, isn't it? It's funny because Harley's parents retired to Florida, so and we we see her mom in the Harley Quinn road trip special. I think it was either August or September, and that's it's about Catwoman, Harley, and Poison Ivy take a cross country trip.
Oh, God.
In a trailer, and they pick up hitchhikers, and they play Truth or Dare. It's a great book. It's insane. It's drawn by Brett Blevins. It's beautiful. And but anyway, we learned that her parents are in Florida, and Starfire's in Florida. Will that happen? It seems like a natural thing. If we ever do it, it's going to be something bizarre anyway. But it seems like it's something that might happen down the line. So.
Very cool.
Unless they cancel Starfire, then it won't happen.
So. You mentioned your independent, your creator-owned book. Out of your creator-owned stuff, what's your most personal creator-owned? The one that is closest to who you are.
Yeah, I think I said it earlier. It was Painkiller Jane was. Character Joe Quesada and I came up with in the 90s, and it was a TV show on Sci-Fi for one season, and I relaunched the book 3 or 4 times. I love writing the character. It doesn't have a very big audience, but it has enough that I put it out as an indie. It does okay, and me and a guy named Craig Whedon wrote a screenplay for a feature, and that's being developed right now. So Jane has always been my personal character. She's a tough New Yorker. She has a little bit of heart of gold, but she's a nasty, mean bastard at the same time. I which I'm not really, but I want to be. You know, we all want to be tougher, right, in situations. And
especially in New York. I'm a New Yorker also, so.
Oh, okay. Where do you live in New York?
Staten Island.
Staten Island. So you have to be really tough because people make fun of Staten Island
all the time. And
yes.
It's like, we can't even decide, are we New Jersey or New York? We're just like kind of in the middle there.
You're New York. You're not New Jersey. You're not New Jersey.
We have the accents of New Jersey. So.
Yeah. You saw the issue of Harley where we were in Staten Island, right?
I did. And I also saw a cool, because my comic book store is Jim Henley's Universe. I saw a little of that, so I was happy with that.
Yes, we you know, a friend of mine, Evan and Sarah, Evan Dawkins and Sarah, you know those guys. They live in Staten Island. Staten Island's the borough that it now costs. How much is it to get across the Verrazano Bridge?
Oh, it's like $15, I think. It's ridiculous, and we're getting a Ferris wheel. So if you want to make fun of that, you can in the next Harley issue.
Yeah, I guess she can use her scatapult to hit the Ferris wheel for free, I guess. You know, but being a New Yorker, you have to put on this face, right? When you're walking through Manhattan, the streets, you kind of put on this, you know, I'm not looking at you, but I'm looking at you kind of look, and don't mess with me kind of look. And then you get New Yorkers out of New York, and they're the friendliest people.
It's true, though. It's so true.
Yeah, they let their guard down, and you know, and I live in Florida. I live in the 6th borough of New York, after Staten Island, which is Florida.
It is.
It's pretty much every New Yorker in the world comes down here. It used to be they retire down here, but now it's all young people. It's like where I live, it's young. It's like, and it's cheaper to live, as we know, and more crazy people here because basically it is still part of New York, so we do need the crazies. But I forgot the question, man. I went all over the place. What was the question?
Your creator-owned character that you most.
Yeah, so Jane is definitely it. And then, you know, I do these Kickstarters. Like a couple of times a year I do a Kickstarter where me and Justin, or me, my next one is with Frank Thierry that we're doing a book about Coney Island, a history, turn of the century Coney Island. And so I do these Kickstarters that are like these little projects that I know are not really going to sell that well, but for a Kickstarter I can actually make it that if I have 1,000 people buy it, then I can actually do the book. So, so I do those, and all of those are really personal stuff. I have no editor on them. We kind of sex, violence, nudity. It's all there. It's like there's no walls. I say these are mature audience. We did a sex and violence book. It's obviously exactly what the title is. And even like a book like Denver and Abaddon was our last Western we did there on the Kickstarter. I love doing those things. Those are all personal books, though. Those are all stories that we want to tell, and we don't want anybody telling us what to do on. And then we want to own them because, I mean, at the end of the day, I don't own a Harley and I don't own Starfire, and so it's important to get my own stuff out there. I'm no Stan Lee, but you know, it would be nice to kind of get more of my own stuff out there, and that's what I always try to work in. Yeah, I don't let that go. I'm always working on something else.
Cool. Kat, you have your final question?
Yes. So you've worked on like so many books in the past, create your own stuff, DC, Marvel. What's something that you haven't worked on that you want to work on? Even if it's create your own, maybe it's just like a genre you haven't worked in, or just from DC or Marvel, whatever company. What would you like to work on?
I'd like to do romance comics. But twisted shit, you know, like really crazy stuff. I would like to. I would like to.
You mean crazier romance than Harley Quinn?
I was just thinking that.
Yeah,
because you do so crazy romance and.
Well, I like, you know, I have a, you know, what I grew up on is heavy metal, right? So I grew up on this European sensibility. Like sex in books to me is nothing. You know, it doesn't mean anything. I mean, of course, in mainstream we have to keep it wherever it is, but it's never been an issue. And violence, obviously, being from America, it's okay to decapitate people and throw their heads around and play volleyball with them. But if you have a nipple, all of a sudden, you know, there's a bunch of moms outside your house picketing. I kind of like the idea of, I guess, I'd love to be able to take Marvel and DC characters and put them in a mature world. And I don't mean, you know, it's been done with Marvel Max, but the Max has always been about violence. And I think the sexuality of characters is kind of fun to explore if it's done not in a stupid way. It would be fantastic. I look at your Teen Titans shirt and like think of what would they do maybe 8 years from now, and they all lived in the same house. It would be kind of crazy, you know.
Different from Teen Titans Go. It would be the complete opposite.
Yeah, it would be Teen Titans Go Wild. It would probably be. And it would be on, you know, it would be on a different network. That's for sure. But I like the idea that we can make books for adults a little more, and they don't have to be, you know, again, the brain goes right to, you know, sex and violence and everything. But I think I'd love to do that with some of the characters. I don't think it's going to happen, and we kind of sneak it in books here and there a little bit. But you know, in the end, I think creating my own stuff is the most important thing for me to do, because you can, you know, I don't want to be the guy that, I guess, looking back and say I'm the guy that, you know, worked on this character with the 40 other guys, and which is nothing wrong with it. But I like to create something that has a little bit of a life beyond me, a character, or you know, I look at Hellboy by Mike Mignola, and I say, look at that, like that'll always be his. You know, that's what he's known at, and it's the hardest thing in the world to do, because if we think about it, and all our creators, maybe Todd McFarlane and Spawn, but you look at the Image guys and you say, well, what's their other characters? You know, Savage Dragon with Eric, right? After that, it becomes a blur. And you know, so in the last 20 years, what new character has stood out and been its own thing with its creators? And it's not much. I mean, Hellboy's the one that, for me, my brain. Do you guys have any idea, like, what comes to your mind?
Maybe Invincible, like Walking Dead. I mean, those are
right. Walking Dead is a huge one, but it's a cast of characters, right? It's a story.
So I would go Invincible.
Invincible, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but there's not a lot. If you think about how many creators do their own things, and then
I mean, especially with Image, they put out a lot of #1s in the last year alone.
I think there's like 20 a month. You know,
a week. I mean, recently.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm picky, so I look through the Image books and I'm like, all right, this one, no way, no way, no way, that I'll keep. You know, I try them all, but they're not, just because it exists doesn't mean it's good.
Yeah.
You know, people tell me I only buy this and I only buy that. I'm not a company person. It's like the movies. I don't just see Paramount movies. Well, you know, who the hell says that, right? I buy my comics like that. I don't care Marvel, DC, Image. I look at them. And so my books are all over the place, because I buy by teams, story, and then I'm a little bit of an art snob, so I like really good art. And if Arthur Adams is drawing it, I'll buy it. I don't care what it is. You know, there's like certain guys. Mike Mignola is drawing it, I'll buy it. You know, there's certain guys that like that. But you know, so I'd like to leave behind something at least maybe that says me. Yeah, but who knows?
The one book that I always recommend to people, and I say it, is from Image, is John Layman's Chew. I don't know if you've ever read that.
Yeah, Chew's great.
Yeah.
John's a great writer. That's a terrific book. Yeah, I mean, but it's rare, right? I mean, if you really think hard about it.
Special.
Yeah, I mean, even Marvel, what character have they introduced that's completely original in the last 30 years? Wolverine, right? Because you can't say Ms. Marvel, because there's Marvel. It's all from other characters.
Yeah, she's a second generation.
Yeah.
All of them are. Pretty much all of them are. In a weird way, they have to, you know, derivative of another character. It's Spider-Gwen is still Spider-Man. Spider-Girl is still Spider-Man.
Even Miss Marvel. I mean, even though she's completely different, obviously it's derived from
Captain Marvel.
She's still that name.
Yeah. Squirrel Girl, maybe that's original. I don't know. No, but she's been around, right? I actually wanted to do Squirrel Girl at one point, but they didn't like my pitch. So
that's funny.
Squirrel Girl, especially with what's being now, it's like right up your alley. That type of
you would pick that up easily.
Yeah, I think
sorry for the pun, nutty humor.
I think I pitched it, with like, you know, hide your nuts, here comes Squirrel Girl, you know, whatever. They've asked us recently to do some stuff like Rocket Raccoon and Deadpool and stuff like that, and I said, you know, I got to focus on my own stuff. It's tempting as it is. I did Deadpool for like almost a year, and I kind of like, you know, I kind of got that out of my system in a weird way, because people keep saying Harley and Deadpool are like almost the same book, and I'm like, no, they're not. I wrote Deadpool. Believe me, Deadpool's a different animal. You know, I love Deadpool. Don't get me wrong, I love Deadpool, but it's different than Harley. You know, there's no wonderful innocence in Deadpool. It's all crazy. It's all crazy. I love it though. I love what Jerry and those guys are doing with it. So
yeah, it's great.
Yeah. I love the way it ended. That was pretty crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mike, you have your final question?
Yeah, my final question is probably a question maybe that you get often, but I'm curious to find out, like, how did it all
wearing underwear? Oh, I'm sorry. What was that? Yes, I am.
How did it all start for you that like you really wanted to get into this business?
As a kid, I read comics. I have two older brothers, one younger brother, so there was always comics around. I went to the High School of Art and Design in New York. Took comics and illustration and advertising, and I just wanted to do it. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I mean, if the first 10 years of my career was just as an inker. I was just inking stuff and then self-publishing with Event Comics with Ash and Painkiller Jane and all that stuff. And I still kind of exploring what I want to do. The writing, I kind of like, I stopped inking cold. I got a book in the mail, and I got a book to ink FedEx to me, and I put it back in the FedEx box, and I sent it back. And I sent it back, and I said, you know what, I'm done inking. Today is my last day inking. That's a weird thing to say, but because I decided I wanted to be a writer. What I want to do, so for me, it was something I always wanted to do. There was a time in my life I didn't think I could make a living doing it, so I got into advertising. I thought there's no money in this, and comparatively, there's still no money in this. But there's a reason I have to write 3 books a month. It's not really a very for a field that makes millions off the properties. It's one of the ones that treat the writers and the artists not great. The breakdown isn't great. But some companies are a lot better than others, and I work for one of the best. DC treats people just fantastic. I can't rave about them enough how well they treat us, but it's something I always wanted to do. I thought maybe I can do it. There's a certain, you understand this, the certain arrogance that I can do anything. That's a New York attitude. I can do anything if I put my mind to it and make it happen. Again, learning to fail has really helped my career. Understanding when something doesn't work. There's little bells going off. I don't know if you hear that. I said something right. The angels are happy. But learning how to fail at things teaches you that you trying to do it is the battle, and even if you fail, you move on to the next thing. And learning how to fail really has helped my career, because I could have given up so many times based on so many different things. And this thing in my head says, well, just keep going. You'll get it. Eventually it'll happen. And people tell me, I have guys show me their art or bring their scripts and, give me their stories where, the book didn't sell, it got canceled. And I'm like, all right, what's the next thing? That's my always say. All right, what's your next thing? What are you going to come back with? And that's so important in a career. In any if you look at any successful and the worst thing is to have success early on. I think having success early on is tough. I never had it. I always had successful things, but I'm glad it's this natural progression. Even people say, well, with Marvel Knights that was a big thing. Event Comics was, but I always looked at it like those were stepping stones to get to where I wanted to go. And so I always did it my whole life. I learned, now I'm doing it. So I'm happy, man. I'm pretty happy.
That's awesome.
Tomorrow I'll get hit by a bus and just die. So this last interview, this whole end will be like the great little clip. They say, yeah, I'm perfectly content. I can leave right now. With
the angels in the background, the digging.
They're all laughing.
I think you live a little bit too much in your Harley world.
Yeah, I know. I am.
I can see where the madness from her comes.
I do knock on wood too often. I go, knock on wood, like that's going to stop anything. And it's funny because Amanda does stuff like, don't say that, because I'll say something completely horrible. Like, we'll be on the plane, and I'll be like, wow, what if this plane crashed now? At least we had a good time. I should be like, stop. Because those words are going to go out and smack the pilot and knock him out while he's flying away.
Karma.
Yes, I don't really have that kind of power. But if I do get hit by a bus tomorrow, you definitely get a lot of hits on this when you put this on YouTube. So.
I still hope that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
No, I have to finish issue 4. Then we can, then we can talk.
I can see now when we read an issue of Harley, we just, instead of seeing Harley's face, we just see Jimmy's face on there now.
There's this story we're working on with Harley where she finds a genie bottle, and the genie gives her as many wishes as she wants, and it is the most insane. It's the most insane 22 pages you'll ever read, because it's pretty much, in a way, what Amanda and I would want. We have as many wishes. All right, I want this, I want that, I want that, I want that, I want that. And and we know, as far as growing up with cartoons, you be careful what you wish for is kind of a theme in everyone's life, right? In everyone's life. I want success, I want money. Well, okay, you got it, but everyone hates you, or that kind of thing. So yeah, I don't know. I grew up with Looney Tunes, Bugs Bunny. That's my whole life is that. That's my sense of humor. Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner is my sense of humor. It just the hits just keep coming.
There's nothing wrong with that. It's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. With that, I'm going to ask Jimmy, do you want to tell us a little bit to prepare us for Starfire tomorrow? And as you said, Harley Quinn is coming out, and Big Con's coming out tomorrow too, correct?
Yes.
You want to sell us on those three?
Sure. I'm going to say bring, let's see, that's $3.99. That's $2.99. That's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, go to the comic store tomorrow with at least $10. That's how I'm prepping you to pick up my 3 books. The Big Con job will be harder to find because your local retailer only ordered 4 of them. Harley Quinn will be easy to find out. If you're going to buy alternate covers, don't blame me. I don't do, that's your business. I'm happy people buy them, but at the same time, I always say just buy one. What the hell you need 9 of them for? To prep you, tomorrow's Harley Quinn opens with the Gang of Harleys, and they're in. That opens up in. Somebody's been stealing the garbage pails in front of people's houses. So Harley and a group stop a ring of guys who steal garbage pails and wait till people bring their new pails out and then steal them. This is an actual thing that happens in Brooklyn.
It happens in Philadelphia too.
Oh, okay. So, we had like car batteries. They'll steal the car batteries, and then 2 weeks later they'll steal them again. Because they're all brand new car batteries. We just gave thieves some really good ideas, but we have the Gang of Harleys. Harley goes on a date with Mason. Harley in the issue before, she bought around 100 parakeets, and she gets them delivered to the house, and that's worth watching. Just what happens there. And then we meet this guy called Captain Strong, who looks like a certain sailor that eats spinach. Except in our book, he eats alien seaweed.
Oh my God!
And it messes with his head a little bit. And he lives in Rockaway. Queens. And so that's Harley, and then Starfire. So we get an introduction to who she is. We get to see her deal with the people of Key West. She goes to a bar, and a couple of guys start buying her drinks and fighting over her because she's nice, and they think they can get them to take her home, which is a big joke. And Starfire buys some new dresses. Let's see, I'm flipping through the book as we go. There's a tropical depression happening in the Gulf. Starfire takes a shower. Yes, we have a shower scene. It's important.
That makes up for the dress shopping for the guys out there.
Yes, I'm balancing the dress shopping with the shower scene for the guys out there. So, and then in the Big Con job, it's the last issue. We see them pull off they robbed the San Diego Comic-Con in this issue, and and we see what happens with them. and by the way, the San Diego Comic-Con had to read every single page of my script to okay this. Because they didn't.
San Diego's coming soon, so.
Well, Matt and I were writing a pretty much like a how to rob the San Diego Comic-Con story, so we had to change it up. You know, so whatever you see in that book is not real as far as how you would really rob the Comic-Con. So we're not really. It's not a how-to book. Yeah, it's not a how-to book.
Yeah, don't go and do it.
Don't do it.
Don't steal from Comic-Con.
No.
They will catch you.
It is a not-for-profit, so if you steal from them, we don't know where the money goes, mind you, but I'm sure it goes somewhere wonderful. You know.
All right. From all of us at Comic Frontline, we enjoy your work, and
Yes.
I'm actually going to be reviewing Starfire #1 tomorrow on Comic Frontline, so everybody can go check that out.
Be kind.
Oh, I love Starfire, and I love the 8-issue story. So I'm going to and I will link it to the DC 8-issue preview pages, so people can go see that before they read the actual issue.
All right, cool. That's awesome. Yeah, and if you hate it, it's okay, man. It's okay if you don't like it.
Oh,
you know?
so far I'm loving it. So far I love the 8
Where do you
pages.
live again? Where do you live?
I live in Philadelphia. I can,
I'm there in an hour and a half, so be nice.
That's different than New York, you know.
Well, I'm gonna.
I'm from the city that threw batteries at Santa Claus on Christmas Day. So
Wait! You threw batteries at Santa?
I didn't, but my city did.
Oh, they threw batteries?
You don't know that?
Why did they do that?
Because Eagles were losing and people were booing. So
you had to throw batteries at
Santa. They beat up Santa Claus on Christmas Day.
Don't get me wrong, it's a great T-shirt. I threw batteries at Santa Claus.
I'm just saying, we're a hard city. We're a hard city here, you know.
Philly, oh yeah, man, I love Philly. Come on, that's a great. I used to go to that Philly con all the time.
Hope maybe one day you'll be there and I can
throw batteries at me, so you can throw batteries.
Yeah, I'll bring a battery. I'll bring a battery, and I'll put your name on it. Now,
do me a favor, make them watch. If you're gonna hit me with batteries, make them watch batteries, okay? Not D batteries. Like, throw a bag and watch batteries.
You gotta do the D batteries. Come on.
D batteries are expensive.
D batteries are for vibrators, okay? They're not for throwing at people.
I don't have batteries.
And with that, that's our
lesson
for the night.
He's drinking now. It's gone to the stage where you're drinking. Okay. Time for me to go. Well, thanks, guys. This was fun.
No, thank you for coming on.
Hopefully
come on again soon.
Yeah, it was a blast. Awesome.
I'll get Amanda next time.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, we'll love to have you on for when down the line, whenever you have maybe a creator-owned book, or even you two are doing something, anything. Just let us know.
We got something else coming up. I think it'll be a good time. We got something else. Yeah.
Cool.
Awesome.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
That, this is the way we buy part. So.
Take care.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Good night.